in Western Massachusetts, where I'm talking to Verrillo, who is not only a patient, but is also a very important activist as we move forward seeking to conquer this dreadful disease. Hello and welcome to the broadcast, Erica. How long have you been afflicted?
Since 1987. I don't count the years.
But a long time.
Yes, a
You've
very
lived
long
with
time.
it, and you've had bad periods and good periods, right? Or better periods.
Yes, I've had very, very bad periods. I've been laid up in bed for years at a stretch, and I also made a functional recovery.
When you say a functional recovery, explain that.
Well, a functional recovery is when you look like a fairly normal human being. So during my functional recovery, I was able to go out to concerts at night, I could eat in restaurants, I hiked. I lived a normal life for all intents and purposes.
And you had a very promising career, both as a musician and then you were pursuing a PhD, I understand, in speech therapy.
It was speech communication, yes.
And all that came to a halt.
Oh yes, it came to a halt very quickly.
Are you somebody who knows the day, the time, the place?
Yes, it was August 8th, 1992. I was in Guatemala, and that was the end, basically.
After that you couldn't function, or couldn't
No.
function adequately.
No, it was very dramatic. The fall was quite dramatic.
Now, over this period of time, you've tried many therapies. What has worked for you?
Well, in the beginning, what worked was a massive shot of cortisol. I was diagnosed almost immediately, which is quite unusual. And I went to a hospital in Mexico, which gave a lot of treatments were not legal in the United States. And they chelated me, they gave me live cell therapy, and by the time they were done with me, it was a 6-week period, I was pronounced dying. The doctors told my mother I was on the verge of death, and I came home to die. I saw an allergist, and he did a bunch of tests on me, and he said, "You are allergic to everything." I tested allergic to everything, so he gave me a massive shot of cortisol to turn off my immune system, and it saved my life.
And since then you've learned to live with it and to be sufficiently functional that you're in fact taking on a very dramatic role for the Massachusetts Civics Association. We'll get to that in a minute.
Yes.
But you told me that swimming is important to you, and especially, this is intriguing,
Yes.
especially cold water.
It has to be cold.
Tell us about this cold water therapy, Erica's cold water therapy.
Well, it's technically not cold, but cool. I go to a local lake. I discovered when I moved here that if I went to this lake and got into it for 10 minutes, that for 4 hours I had energy and I could think. So I did it twice a day. Now I don't do that. When I couldn't swim, I noticed a decline in my ability to put things together in my mind. I noticed a decline in my energy levels, just basically a general decline. So I began swimming again once I got here. It's not active swimming. It's basically treading
This is
water.
quite important. This
Well,
is,
you know, I'm not exercising.
you're not doing the crawl.
Oh, no, I'm doing this very slowly in the water for 10 minutes. The object is to stay in cool water, because when you get totally immersed in cool water, your body automatically shunts blood into your vital organs, which means blood gets shunted into your brain and into your heart. So if I stay in the cool water long enough, it's got to be at least 10 minutes. Afterwards, I have energy, I can think again, and I can do work. So it's a phenomenal thing. I was telling you earlier that hyperbaric oxygen accomplished something quite similar to that, not quite as dramatic, but it was a lot more expensive.
What is hyperbaric?
Hyperbaric oxygen chamber, you get into a, it has to be a hard chamber, they're quite expensive actually, you can't buy one yourself. And they increase the pressure of the oxygen, and it forces it into your tissues, it forces it into your brains. So I noticed that my cognitive problems cleared up after I did hyperbaric oxygen therapy. But I get the same result from a lake, and it's more pleasant, and it's obviously less expensive.
How bad were your cognitive problems? Did you have very serious dysphagia? Couldn't write sentences?
Oh yeah, yeah.
What other symptoms did you have? Did you have pain? I've had patients explain
Oh, yeah.
to me that they have pain like exploding joints. Others have terrible migraines?
Well, I didn't explode, but what I had was I felt as if I were being burned at the stake. That lasted for 6 months solid, where I had constant burning pain that did not respond to painkillers at all. I took narcotics for a while. So I had to lie perfectly still in the bed without moving a muscle for 6 months, which I did. That helped. Eventually the pain went away. I still have it, but not quite that badly.
How
My
about-
cognitive problems were terrible, I have to say.
How about light and sound?
No tolerance at all. It had to be dark.
You had to lie in a dark room.
I had a lot of neurological symptoms. I couldn't read a map. It was just gobbledygook for me. I couldn't make sense out of words on a page, nothing.
Do you, you're much more functional now, and
Yes.
do you associate that with the cold water? Was that the turning point, or?
No.
Not exactly.
What happened was after my immune system was shut off, I worked on rebuilding myself very slowly. I couldn't tolerate anything. I was reduced to 5 foods at that period of time. I couldn't eat anything else. But I worked on rebuilding my intestines, and of course I gave myself mitochondrial supports. I couldn't tolerate any form of drugs. So over the years, I very gradually got better. So after 5 years, I was able to drive again. I was able to start functioning a little bit. And as I started to function, I got slowly better. I reached a plateau. So I got to the point where I could function pretty well. But at that point, it was hormone replacement therapy that got me over the hump. So I began taking hormones, and that pushed me into a functional recovery. And then after that, it's, you've got to take your B vitamins with this illness. You have to give yourself vitamins and basic supports. You can't do without them. And one of the biggest mistakes I made was when I made a functional recovery, I thought I had recovered. And I stopped doing all of that, and it was a mistake.
And you had a terrible relapse.
Yes, it was very bad. And that sent me to bed again.
And back to bed. For
Back
how
to
long
bed.
this time?
Not so bad. 7 months without getting up. My children had to take care of me because I couldn't stand, I couldn't feed myself.
How many children do you have?
I have 2.
And it's fortunate that they could look after you.
Well, they're good kids, yeah.
Yeah, that's very important.
Yes.
Now you are looking after people, or you're about to help people by establishing a new organization which is patient-related, what I like to call pastoral work, taking that from religion, in which patients are going to have a website, a sense of belonging, and are going to get information. Tell us about it.
Well, this is a national nonprofit. We were incorporated in Massachusetts as a nonprofit on July 20th. This idea came about when I proposed it to the Mass CFS Association. They supported me 100%. They became my fiscal sponsor, and they appointed me executive director. So my job is to set this organization up. It is not the first time I have run a nonprofit. I spent 10 years running a nonprofit, so I have experience. I have lawyers working with me. Anyhow, the bottom line for this organization is that it is completely patient-centered. So we will have databases so they can find doctors. We have a treatment database as well. We have a support group database. These are all very important for patients. Huge amount of information, 60,000 words on the website so that people can get information to their doctors. The website is also...
Is the website up now? Can people go to it?
No, not yet.
Okay.
It's in the process of being finished, and I need to get some guinea pigs to walk through it first.
Do you have a name for it? I mean, can people find it, or will they?
Yes.
What is that?
The acronym is AMES.org, so AMMES.org, and that stands for American Myalgic Encephalomyelitis and Chronic Fatigue Syndrome Society.
And if they went to that address now, they wouldn't find anything, but in 3 months they will.
Yes, they'll find in maintenance mode.
Okay, well, at least they can get some clued in. And
Yes, it exists. It's
something
just...
to look forward to. Do you see a day when there could be, counselors, home visits, that kind of thing, which seems to be so lacking?
Yes, and that's one of the things that we'll try to promote with this organization, is getting help to patients in their homes. We have something like a Craigslist that we're putting up, and that will get volunteers and patients together so that they can put up a wanted ad, and then a volunteer can answer it. And that will help get people to doctor's visits. It will help them apply for disability. You know, those are all essential things that patients currently don't have.
I have noticed that those who are able to form de facto networks by going to conferences, but that suggests A, that you're well enough, and B, you can afford to go to a conference. It's not an inexpensive undertaking, but there are
Exactly.
networks that evolve. And I suppose one might say it is one of the great achievements of the internet that these people can talk to each other. It must have been very much lonelier before the internet.
Oh, it was very definitely lonely. But I will say that bringing volunteers and patients together is extremely important, because I've encountered numerous patients who simply can't make it to a doctor's visit. They can't drive. How are they going to get there? How are they going to fill out disability papers? How are they even going to understand how to do it? They need someone to explain it to them and walk through it with them. My children came and took care of me. What happens to people when they don't have children to come take care of them?
Well, this is very true. I mean, we've had some terrible emails, people living in cars,
Yes.
people actually hoping to die.
There are
Because-
numerous people living in cars, lots of people living in cars, and it's a terrible situation. And hopefully this organization will help remedy that.
And how are you going to finance it?
Donations, and I will hire grant writers.
And go off to the grants where will you apply for grants? To government? Or
No, absolutely not. We will not accept any government money. There's a conflict of interest there. This will be all private.
How about local government? Meals on Wheels actually takes local money to be able to do its work.
Local government isn't the problem. The problem is that federal government has been antagonistic towards this patient group, and we can't accept money from them. We've got past examples of people who accepted grants from the federal government, and it means that you're beholden to the hand that feeds you. They have not been feeding us.
Well, that is true, but there has been some movement lately. There's some feeling, some indications that the
Yes.
National Institutes of Health is taking
Yes.
a more serious look
Yes.
at this disease. Until this point in time, it has been very dismissive and has underfunded it in
Yes.
such a ridiculous way that it's $5 million a year, which in Washington does not make it to a bottom line.
It's been $0 million for many years. The problem is, for an organization like this to function, we have to be able to put pressure on the federal government. We have to insist that they take us seriously, that they invest research money. We can't do that if we're taking money from them. You can't do both. That's having your cake and eating it too. It simply doesn't work.
So you'll apply to foundations.
Yes, absolutely.
I have been struck by the fact that the foundations are absent from this fight.
Well, there won't be.
We have not seen the big foundations with very large resources taking an interest to this point in time.
Well, part of the problem is that who are they going to donate to? If you have a national organization with a nonprofit number and a president, and you go to one of these organizations, they're much more liable to fund you. Who are they funding right now? Who can they fund? It's very difficult for them to fund someone who's not nonprofit, officially 501c3.
Well, but there are 501c3s that haven't attracted the attention of the foundations. And we have examples where foundations have done an enormous amount in medicine. Been very important because they can throw millions and millions of dollars at a problem if they know about it and are minded to do so.
Yes, we will make them mind to do so.
Well, that's marvelous. And I wish you the very best of luck in your own life and in your
Thank you.
noble quest to set up this organization.
Thank you very much.